and abuse, and they're proposing tax cuts.
That's right.
Just today, or this week, President Trump said he wants to lower taxes for everyone that makes under $150,000 a year.
There you go.
Sounds good. Just 46 miles away, right across the Potomac in Virginia, they just ended their session with a $2 billion surplus. Guess what they did? They gave tax cuts to people. They sent a tax check, $200 to a single, $400 to a couple, back to taxpayers.
Yep.
Go to Pennsylvania, right up 81. They expanded the property tax rent rebate program for the largest tax cut for seniors they've seen in decades.
There you go.
And then go on over to West Virginia. They ended with the surplus. They passed a 4% personal income tax reduction. And you know what else they're doing? They're phasing out taxes on Social Security.
Hey. Yes.
That's what our neighbors are doing. And here in Annapolis, that is not what they're doing. Politicians are increasing the already bloated budget, and they're looking for any tax and every tax to raise. What about a Doge? Should we have a Doge?
Yes.
Well, guess what? Governor Wes Moore told the press this week, quote, "If you believe in cutting waste fraudsters, so do I." And that's what we're doing in Maryland. You know, we have a message for you, Governor Moore. You're entitled to your own opinions, but not your own facts.
That's right.
Instead of, Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, maybe he meant the Department of Government Excessiveness. Or the Department of Government Employment, since he hired 5,000 more people. Or the Department of Government Expansion. You know, when our good governor, who's coming up next, Bob Ehrlich, lived right there in that house, the budget was only, beautiful home, the budget was less than $29 billion. That's less than 20 years ago. The budget has blown up. It is now more than $67 billion. That's more than double than when Governor Ehrlich was here. You know, it used to be, when he was here, the cost to every man, woman, and child in the state for state taxes was less than $5,000 a year. Today, it's more than $10,000 a year. That's what's happened to the state budget. It's out of control. So, 53% of people said they want to leave our great state, and we're saying, no, we are going to fight for you. We want you to stay here. So how do you feel about paying more taxes? You want to pay more income taxes? No. You want to pay more sales taxes?
No.
You want to pay more property taxes?
No.
You want to pay more car taxes?
No.
You want to pay more tax on gas and diesel?
No.
How about your gas and electric bills?
No.
How about that sugary drink tax?
No.
How about your snack tax? No. Just say no to more taxes.
Right.
So a constituent who runs a daycare emailed me recently because she is fed up like the rest of us. And so I'm going to read you the poem she sent. You're going to love it. I do not like these taxes, Governor Wes Moore. We do not like them, Governor Moore. We do not want to pay more. You tax my house, you tax my car, you tax my boat. Now that's gone too far. You tax my snacks, you tax my soda, you tax my trips to North Dakota. You tax my work, you tax my pay. Is there no tax you'll turn away? You tax my lights, you tax my heat, you tax the shoes upon my feet. You tax my pants, you tax my coat, you even tax my neighbor's goat. You tax my clothes, you tax my hat, you tax my ball, you tax my bat. You tax my pretzels and my chips. You want to tax the words that leave my lips. A tax on air, a tax on cheese, a tax on dogs that scratch their fleas. I do not like it, Governor Westmore. We won't take this anymore.
Right.
So take your taxes, take them quick. Maryland's had enough of it. No more taxes, we say so. No more taxes. No, no, no. So with that, I'd like to introduce the best governor we have, Governor Bob Ehrlich. He needs no introduction.
All right, well, somehow I got drafted to be the godfather of this band of misfits and disruptors called out of retirement. By the way, before I get in trouble, the best first lady ever, Governor Ehrlich. And the best first son, Drew Ehrlich. Don't tell your brother I said that, please. So I'll be real brief. I was just drafted here to stand with my friends. Some of you may know what's happened in Virginia, and you just heard a little bit about Virginia, but what you may not have heard is that Maryland is now a verb in Virginia, and I'm not kidding. The Republicans in Virginia are warning their constituents, we do not want to Maryland our Virginia. When you become a verb in politics, you got a problem. And I'm not making that up. Just Google it at home. So I've seen this movie before. We've all seen this movie before, I suspect. By the way, Bob Castley, a great county executive of Harford County. Another disruptor up in Harford County. Keep going, Bobby. Great job. Loved Harford County, representing that county in Congress as well. So we've seen this movie before, and the problem is the movie keeps replaying. It's what you just heard with regard to the taxes and the spiking energy prices and obviously unfunded education mandates. All that sounds so familiar to me. I don't know why that is. Yeah. Steve Hershey, is that? Yeah, I thought we inherited that. So we've seen the damage as a result. We've seen the flight. We spent a lot of time this past cycle up in Pennsylvania talking to former Marylanders who live in Shrewsbury. Yep. Shrewsbury being the town that Maryland tax policy built. Yep. But not just Pennsylvania. Delaware, South Carolina, obviously Florida. A lot of states out there where Marylanders literally have escaped. And as a result of this continuing cycle of escape, you have a diminishing pie. And when you have a diminishing pie, you got problems behind me. That's precisely what's happened. Last 2 points. I love these guys.
We love you.
Well, it's mutual, okay. I love them for this reason. They are outgunned. They are outmanned. They are out-fundraised. They are out-organized. They are out-mediated. That's made up a word. They are out everything except they're not out-principled. Okay? That's the reason you're here today. That's the reason you wear buttons. That's the reason you write checks. That's the reason you put bumper stickers on your car. That's the reason you come out and support these good people. They're up against it. They don't have the numbers. The monopoly does what the monopoly does. Again, that movie we've seen time and time again. But at some point, as I used to say, in the late 1980s, multi-party democracy broke out in Eastern Europe. In Maryland, once in a while as well. And maybe next time as well. They need more help. They need more members. They need more principled people who will step up and win. I love that. Preempted by another child. Jeez. So support them. And the reason to support them is my last point. The reason they do what they do and face it every day and get hit every day and get beaten down every day and get demonized every day and get ran out of D words. Demoralized. They're not demoralized. You're not demoralized. But the reason I'm here, the reason you're here is them. Okay? They deserve your support. And I'm very honored to be temporary godfather of this group of disruptors and misfits and principled people. Thank you all very much. Godspeed.
Thanks, Gov. We appreciate you and all you did when you led our great state. Next, we're going to hear from Delegate Mark Fisher from Calvert County.
All right. How's everybody doing? All right. I got to get this crowd going. So look, a few years ago, 7 good friends got together and we started talking about how we can't keep doing the same things in Annapolis if we want things to change. And so those 7 good friends figured out a great pathway, and that was to somehow become a Freedom Caucus in the state of Maryland. And those 7 good friends then contacted the Freedom Caucus network in Washington, D.C. and said, how do we become one of you? And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. There was training involved. There was a lot of discussion back and forth from our key members in this caucus. And then finally, last year, after we completed our training, these 7 patriots are now members of the Freedom Caucus, and I'm so honored to be part of this group. So honored to hear from them. So why does it matter? It matters because our federal deficit is unsustainable. America's headed to insolvency. Do you know our interest on the debt is $1.2 trillion per year? When you look at the chart of interest on the debt, it's an elbow. It looks like this. It's unsustainable. And then we have Maryland that is completely dependent upon federal largesse because we have such a small private sector. We are dependent on the federal government for spending. So the federal government's in trouble and Maryland's in trouble. And meanwhile, this guy, Governor Wes Moore, is too busy trying to become president. Yep. So we have a statement for Wes Moore. Don't Maryland America. We don't want you there. We don't want you there. We don't want you there. And it is a verb. And even the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, as you've heard already, she's running for Governor of Virginia. She's making fun of Maryland like crazy, and deservedly so. Deservedly so. We are the laughingstock of the region. And why are we the laughingstock of the region? Because we've had nothing but Democrat-controlled legislatures for decades upon decades, and the citizens are tired of it. And so I have to say this. We need leadership more than ever, and this group of people are getting up on the House floor, and we're being hammered down by the Speaker. We're being told we can't talk. We're being told, everything you can possibly imagine. Sit down. They stop the debate. Everything they can do. Even in the committee structures, they're saying in some committees, in the tax committee, in the legislature, that you can't have people testifying for your bills if they've heard the bill before. It's completely undemocratic. Yeah. And this is who they are. Because they used to have censorship, but because of a lot of changes that have occurred in the media in this state and across the country, they can't censor us anymore. They can't do it. They can't. They can't. And so I'm so proud to say this. So years ago, a good friend of mine decided to run for the House of Delegates, and I was already here, and he ran the first time, and he came so close to winning. And then he came here, and I said to him, and then he ran and he won, and we made sure he got here. And he has been a change agent since the day he got here. This change agent is also the person who is in St. Mary's County, and he's a head of our Freedom Caucus. He's technically the chair of the Freedom Caucus. And I got to we elect him as chair as the Freedom Caucus. Okay, all right, come on. But here's the thing. You need strong leadership when you're the head of the Freedom Caucus because everybody is trying to break us up. And it's not just the Democrats. It's the rhino Republicans that are trying to break us up. Yep. And why? Because some might actually want something from Wes Moore. They might want something from their Democrat colleagues. And I'm like, the 7 of us, we don't want anything from the Democrats. We want to be the majority party once and for all to bring this state back. That's what we want to see. And the person leading this caucus is my very dear friend, and he works night and day. Ladies and gentlemen, he wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning doing your work, and some mornings knocks on my door at 6 a.m. saying, let's take a walk, and I'm like, I'm in bed, sorry. Okay, not going to happen. I'm so honored to introduce this person, this patriot, this leader, this individual who is trying to be the change agent and is the change agent in the state, my very dear friend, Delegate Matt Morgan, head chair of the Freedom Caucus.
Can't beat a Mark Fisher honey badger introduction, I tell you what. Hey, some of you might know, next year's an election year. But more importantly, next year, it's the 250th anniversary of our country's independence. And I tell you, there's nothing that I would think would be more important than returning to the values and the principles that set that revolution in motion in the first place. And I tell you, it would start with having a government that you could trust. I am tired of being lied to. I don't know about you guys, but I am sick and tired of being lied to. Federal government tells us, well, inflation's transitory. It's not. They tell us the border is secure. It wasn't. They tell you that COVID came from a wet market. It didn't. And in the state where Westmore is, our state that we call home, it's no different. I mean, we had hours and hours of debate over police reform, criminal justice, justice reinvestment, no cash bail bond, juvenile justice reform. And they said, you know, we're going to pass all this and you're going to be safer. They were wrong. They passed education reform. They said that we can afford it and our schools would improve. The schools are worse now, and guess what? We can't. And then, personally, my favorite is the green energy, the Green New Deal. They said, hey, if you pass this, your energy prices would go down, and we'll have all these green energy jobs. And since then, electric bills have been skyrocketing, and the only green energy jobs I see are lobbyists. Look, Maryland has a woke problem because you look at all of what I just mentioned, all those bills. Look, when we have businesses that are closing the doors and putting stuff behind glass because shoplifting is so bad, they have to close and move. Guess what? There's an economic impact to that. When energy prices are so high and we have the highest energy costs in the region, guess what? There's an economic impact to that. We have a woke problem here in Maryland where we're passing woke policies. And I tell you, we have this little phrase we like to use up here. When you go woke, you go broke. And that's exactly what's happening right now. That's the problem that we're having. Because when the policies they are pushing fail to produce the results they are promising, they never admit that they're wrong. They come back to the taxpayer every single time with their hand out saying, give us more of your labor, give us more of your money. And I tell you, the people I represent, 53% of Marylanders, we just had it polled, thinking about moving away. When half your state is thinking about moving away, that is not successful leadership. Look, we want to encourage our Democratic colleagues to have some courage. Stand up to the special interests. Stand up to the teachers union. Stand up to the special interests that are pushing these bad policies. And look, we want to encourage them. It's not too late. We haven't passed the budget yet. We haven't had a vote. We haven't had a vote on a single tax increase yet. It's time for them to recognize there's a lot of people out here. We call Maryland our home. And I tell you, they could do the right thing. So I'll end with this. We launched the Freedom Caucus about 2 months ago, and we made a pledge to the voters, the people in Maryland, and to each other that we're going to fight for Maryland because we think Maryland's worth saving. And we're on board to make a safer, freer, more prosperous Maryland. Thank you all so much for coming out here. Now I get the pleasure to introduce two guys that I think are doing a phenomenal job. You've seen a lot of their stuff out here, Facebook, Twitter. They're doing an excellent job. It's our Senate leadership, Senate Republican leadership, Senator Steve Hershey, Senator Justin Reedy. Come on up.
Well, thank you all, and just wonderful words that we've heard here tonight, and can't tell you how hard that we are working for all of you in trying to stop all the tax increases that we're seeing here in Annapolis. I'll be honest, I can't tell you how proud Justin and I are in representing our 13-member caucus in the state Senate. 13 out of 47. That's our numbers. That's the disadvantage that we have when it comes to votes. But as Governor Ehrlich said, there is no disadvantage when it comes to principle. And that's what we stand for in the Senate. We've been working hard to make sure, as Matt just mentioned, there has not been a vote yet on any taxes. We have not allowed any of these taxes to come forward to end up on the Senate floor yet because we've been able to fight them in the committees and make sure that they're not getting out there. And all of us are doing a great job with respect to that. We do have a message for Governor Moore. And I'll say, when Governor Ehrlich was here, guess what happened? No new taxes.
That's right.
When we had Governor Hogan here, guess what happened? No new taxes.
Right.
We have Governor Moore here for 3 years, and guess what's happening? More taxes and more fees.
Yep.
We're going to put an end to that this year. We are not going to allow this to move forward. Our caucus, along with the delegates in the House, have gotten to the point where we are saying we are standing up to any and all taxes, period. We're going to find a way to balance this budget after Governor Hogan left Governor Moore with $5 billion in surplus, and he's found a way to waste $8 billion in 3 short years. We're telling him you got to do it on the backs of cutting taxes and cutting government spending, period. We have another message for Governor Moore, and one of the things we hate more than anything else is hypocrisy. Hate it down here. And all we hear from the Democrats over and over again is why they can do something and why somebody else doesn't have to do something. Governor Moore has been talking about growing the economy. And here's how he wants to grow the economy. IT, life sciences, quantum, and artificial intelligence, AI. He wants to grow the economy in those industries, and guess what he wants to tax? Those very same industries that he's trying to grow. And right now we're looking at a 3% service tax, a business-to-business service tax on those industries that he wants to grow. We're done with the hypocrisy, Governor Moore. We're done with hearing what you want to do and then seeing the exact opposite in the House and the Senate. So we're going to continue to fight that. We're going to continue to tell people that this is what's happening in Annapolis, and we're fed up with it, but we're going to work our butts off to make sure these taxes don't go forward.
It's a great honor to be part of the leadership team with Senator Hershey. I'm Senator Justin Reedy, represent Carroll and Frederick counties. And yeah, it's great to have you here. So we have a little running tally on our Senate caucus office. We've become the I told you so caucus because every major problem in this state that we're facing this session is literally a self-inflicted wound by the supermajority gerrymandered Democratic legislature. Governor Moore has certainly made it worse in the last 2 years, but some of the things that are coming home to roost now were things that were rammed through previously over our objection and over Governor Hogan's vetoes. Not just Kerwin, which was bad, but also all kinds of job-killing regulations, programs, and policies that make it just almost impossible to really grow a small business. Makes it incredible. We're one of the most expensive places in America to live, and it's wrong. If you look at the map of the Mid-Atlantic region, you hear a lot about how it's been interesting. Governor Moore had a meeting this session on Fox 45. He had like a town hall meeting with a journalist who asked him some questions, and he said, "I don't like to point fingers. I like solutions." Since that time, I think he's run out of fingers to point because we're hearing all the different reasons this is. He tried to blame Governor Hogan, which was a little strange to blame the guy that left you $5 billion for the problem. Trying to blame Donald Trump, and I said, well, look, I mean, I'm not that smart, but we got down here on January 8th, and we had a $3 billion deficit, and Donald Trump wasn't president until January 20th. So I know $3 billion worth of our deficit you can't blame on Donald Trump. And so it's fascinating because if you buy that the reason we have a problem is the federal government and Donald Trump, that why we have a fiscal problem. Well, look around. Virginia, purple state, surplus, cutting taxes. Pennsylvania, purple state. I don't know if they have a surplus, but they have a balanced budget and they're doing fine from a tax perspective. Delaware, bright blue state, home of our former president and his auto pen. They have a surplus. They have a surplus. West Virginia, ruby red, and has a lot of federal employees. Surplus. So what does that tell you? We're in an island. We're like in an island in a sea of surpluses, and we have a $3 billion deficit. So it's a Maryland problem, and it's self-inflicted because of commitments to spending that we couldn't afford, and a tax and regulatory environment that snuffs out innovation and jobs. And so, our 13 members stand proudly with our House Republican members, and we are going to fight to the end to say we need to actually, instead of a recession coming, they're talking about we may have a recession. We need a government recession in Maryland. That's what we need, is a state government recession. And that will fix our budget deficit. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for standing with us.
Head on this side. Well, I do want to recognize we have lots of officials, elected officials. This is the team fighting for you. Please raise your hand if you are in the House or Senate. Oh, I got a list here. All right, so if I missed your name, you got to come back and tell me. Delegates, Kipke, Riley, Morgan, Beecham, Hutchinson, Congolo, Pippi, Tomlinson. Anybody else? Oh, Valentine, Jacobs, Otto, Weibel, Miller. I got Beecham, I got Pippi. We got April Rose, yes. Senator Johnny Mounts, thanks for coming over, Johnny. And our county exec, Bob Casserly. Did I miss anybody? Next, I want to introduce a special guest that's come from Middle River to be with us. You know her, radio show. She's great, dynamic. She's a great candidate. I remember, come on up here, Kim. I remember calling Kim. You remember that ad with the red high heels? Oh, yeah. I'm listening to Rush Limbaugh, and Rush says there's this smoking hot chick with red high heels walking down the street in Baltimore. I called Kim. I'm like, Kim, you're on Rush Limbaugh. And she had a great campaign, hard district to run in, but she held her head up and finished proud. And thank you for being here, Kim.
No, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. How are you? First and foremost, I want to thank our Maryland Freedom Caucus for everything you guys are doing. You're fighting so hard up here. And when I'm on WCBM every day, I get so many phone calls about messaging and how important it is to make sure that the constituents know what we're fighting for. And you guys have been doing a hell of a job this year. Thank you so much. You're making my job a lot easier. Look, I'm not going to take a lot of time. I just know that, I see these signs up here, no more taxes. I'm all about that. I see this other sign here, abortion funding is unconstitutional tax. That is correct. And if you want to look at House Bill 930, you can really look into that. And that is what we're paying, even though many people don't understand that we are paying into some of these things that we don't want to pay. I am a mom. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and when I look at Kerwin Commission, I look at the blueprint, whatever you want to call it, my daughter's in private school. So I'm on the team with Delegate Mark Fisher where I want school choice. But they want me to pay into this nonsense that we know at the end of the day it's not more money that's going to educate the children. It takes other solutions, and they don't want to find it. They rather just tax us. So for all of you that are here today, I know I see a lot of familiar faces. Thank you so much for always coming out and fighting the good fight. Thank you for calling in the show, because guess what? They listen here in Annapolis. The Democrats do listen to the show. I get text messages all the time. I even tried to make friends with the Democrat once. It didn't work out. But I will keep trying, because at the end of the day, we are in the minority, and we have to do something. And I appreciate the fight. I hope that many people in this crowd think about running for office next year, because we need you. Again, thank you guys so much for everything you do here in Annapolis. We love you so much. God bless you. God bless America.
Delegate Jeff Greist is here as well. Thank you. Next, I'm going to introduce another Freedom Caucus member who's going to give you another reason to hate taxes. Delegate Brian Chisholm from Anne Arundel County.
I'm glad that Kathy took a second to introduce Jeff Greist, because Jeff Greist is on the Budget Committee. He's from Appropriations. So if he looks confused, bewildered, pissed off, you know why. Yeah. So Milton Friedman said it best a long time ago. He said, other people spending other people's money on other things is a very dangerous place to be. We're 50 out of 50 states